Welcome to the SF Bay Area School Counselors and Education Professionals Meetup Group. I am Ebru from CounselHero team, and I would like to welcome our speaker, Kathleen, and her talk, Career Counseling for the 21st Century Using the Horizontal Industry Framework. First of all, our meetup group is sponsored by CounselHero, and CounselHero is trying to change school and college counseling as we know it by building a complete end-to-end system that automates many of the tasks counselors are asked to do in schools. And this will free up counselors to spend more time with their students and impact their lives. And for our speaker, Dr. Kathleen is the CEO and founder of Dream2 Career LLC, which is a special enterprise that works with schools, business, and workforce groups to connect, promote, and build synergic relationships between workforce and education. So we are all excited to have her, and please now give your full attention to Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you, Ebru and Xavier, and of course, CounselHero for sponsoring this event. This opportunity is really a great thing, to look at, the cradle to career opportunities for students to start to understand where they fit within the workforce. And so I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I'd like to ask everyone from the chat to maybe post where they're connecting with us from. It's always good to, have that opportunity. So, if you're open to it, I'd love for you to, introduce yourself and, mention maybe where you work and, what part of the country we're working with. It's a great opportunity for us to get to know and to see each other. And, even in this virtual environment, it's good to make those connections. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. But like I said, feel free to comment in the notes. Like I said, it's good for us to kind of get to see where the network is calling in from and, those opportunities. So let me just go ahead and start my screen. As I mentioned, I think they mentioned in the presentation, just going to advance this slide here. I've actually worked in higher education for a very long time. It's over 20 years. And for the last 6 years, I was actually working as a faculty member. And I actually thought my husband was going to divorce me because who leaves a full-time faculty position to go into, opening up a business? I mean, it's definitely something that's unusual. But, what I found is that my students were graduating thousands of dollars in debt, and they still had no idea what they wanted to do. So I said, there's got to be another way. So I actually went out and, started to look at the industry in terms of that. Educators, have a great responsibility, to their students. And so, I actually took it upon myself to really go out and see what else is out there. At first I thought the only thing that was there was these degree opportunities, but you find out quickly that there are, according to Credential Engine, almost 1 million learning on-ramps, certificates, badges, and opportunities, and this just complicates the problem for counselors and educators. And so it's really important for us to start to look at opportunities, like CounselHero offers, to start to look at ways that the industry can work together. And, the reality is, because of all of these opportunities, it makes it very difficult to help students find the right opportunities and to make things part of the decision set. What should they be considering? So we need a way to help them develop a comprehensive decision set based on who they are, based on their interests and based on what they're looking for. Another problem is there's no real strategy to cross promote, so the reality is, different industries offer different opportunities, but they basically, if we can get people who can identify as a certain group, we can attract them to more opportunities, more learning on ramps, and more ways that they could become the best versions of themselves. So this problem is very complex, and this is really bringing us to why we're going to need the horizontal industry framework. So we've identified 33 different kinds of learning on ramps, everything from going and getting your degree down to hackathons and clubs and organizations that you could become members of, even job on the job experience. So there's lots of different ways that we can live and learn. And we like to think of learning not as something that should happen in a period of time. This is something that's happening to us all of the time. And it shouldn't be something that is a negative experience for us. This should be something that, we look forward to, and that helps us, really live our best life. And so, these are the 33 different on-ramps that we've identified. So what we're going to talk about today is, connecting students to emerging opportunities. Because there are so many, it's critically important for them to understand, what are the options that are out there, and what should they be thinking about, and how does the horizontal industry framework work, and how it can help us with compliance with ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is required by the federal government for students to have access to career readiness in their curriculum K through 12. And so each state is required to put in a plan of how their state is in compliance with this ESSA regulation. And so really what we want to do is make it so that it's not just giving the students a test, but something that they could use every day and make it part of the learning experience. And so that's really what we're going to talk about. So the first thing is to really discuss the emerging trends and how this is a very complex problem. It's more complex today than it even was many, many years ago. And so we're going to get started with talking about Nate Silver's book, Finding the Signal and the Noise. And what he describes is that basically it's important for us to understand, with all of these credentials, as I mentioned, all of these opportunities that are around us, how are we supposed to help a student figure out what's going on today, let alone what's going to happen in the future? And so it's really important, for students to have access to good information, and that means using social media less. I think a lot of students, use that as their only way of learning anything, and this is obviously not necessarily the best way to do things. We'd like to get them away from using that as their sole connection with the world and their way of learning about everything, because there's a lot of bad data that is pushed out through social media. But to come back to Nate Silver, he talks in the book about the printing press, and what happened was it was developed in 1450, and it brought about the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, but it also brought along the Protestant Reformation. This is where individuals were deciding whether the earth or the sun was the center of the universe. And so it led to a lot of arguments and conflict. And so I see a lot of similarities with what happens with politics and decisions, and people get set in their ways with whichever side that they're on. And so it's important for us to, start to, that's really the problem with technology, is that, as people were able to get the information out, there's a lot of bad information that also comes out too. And so it's important to recognize this, when we're working with our students, and, to help to try to find them good resources and good information so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. So the Lumina Foundation consequently started a few years back saying that they wanted 60% degree attainment. And now they've actually lowered the standard to 60% credential attainment. I think this is not a good thing. I think they should have left it as degree attainment. You know, credentials are fascinating. It's a great opportunity, you know, for some individuals, but this does not mean that we shouldn't have people going on and getting a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, because there's things that you learn in your liberal studies that help you become a global citizen. And, you know, so just getting a certificate, what happens is a lot of students, again, this is an opportunity for them to get out there and make some money, but it shouldn't be the end of the road for them. And we've got to start to talk about learning pathways and ways that they could, you know, maybe start out with a credential, but then to really encourage them to move beyond. And we're actually working with the workforce to ensure that that happens, you know, because it used to be they just want to get people in, but now with this idea of social responsibility becoming more popular, more businesses are starting to look for ways to educate their workforce because they want them to be happy. And, you know, just learning and going in and doing your job every day isn't what, you know, keeps people and retains them. And so, you know, which brings us to the next point. I don't know if you saw this recently, but the Department of Labor is now saying that everybody is leaving their jobs. They're calling it the Great Resignation. And because of the pandemic, people are deciding they didn't like what they were doing before. And, you know, they're starting to look for more opportunities to do something that they love. And so this leads us to the idea of where the educational system has to go. We really have to think about opportunities to, you know, help students, you know, find those experiential learning opportunities that help them discover who they are and what they want to be, and help them live and become the best versions of themselves. And I know that's really why many people go into education in the first place. And so, you know, we really want to use this as an opportunity. And I know, you know, counselors, it's even more difficult today than it was years ago. I mean, they just pile more and more regulations on top of you. And, you know, you don't get the opportunity to really engage with the students like you may have in the past. But that's why, again, some of the work that we're going to be discussing in terms of the horizontal industry framework can help to get others involved in the work that you're already doing, and make it the solution a little bit more effective. So, you know, here's another statistic that says, you know, basically, the Harris poll did this study, and they found out that 47% of millennials were not happy with their jobs. And so they were hoping that they should be taking a different, they wish they took a different pathway. And so this is a concerning number, right? Because, you know, this means that we have a lot of people out there who are unhappy. And, you know, this is obviously the reason, you know, the suicide rates are going up. You know, we have a lot of people who are unhappy in their career, and we've got to do a better job of helping them connect with the opportunities. And in the learning environment, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Helen Imordito Yang. Actually, if you email me, if you go to dream2career.com, or I'm sorry, .org/contact, you can request a copy of the slides and I'll absolutely send these, but there is a video on here for Mary Helen, where she talks about how when we talk about deep thinking and deep learning, that it actually impacts our brainstem, which is what actually allows us to be alive. You know, so if you really want someone to connect with the information and to really learn and to really think about something, there has to be an emotional connection. And so educators all the time talk about SEL and the social emotional learning aspect of education, but this is critically important when it comes to career pathways. We need students to start to find their career signal and to identify the opportunities that are going to make them really engage with the workplace and to really want to learn and to love what they do. You know, that's when we know that we're successful as educators and counselors, when we have these students who want to come back to us. And, you know, educators impact students' lives in so many ways. And it's really important when you have that opportunity to do that. But so she talks about these things. We don't know what the future holds, but we can help our students become global citizens and give back. And, that's really why a lot of times we're going into education in the first place. And I discourage you from thinking of artificial intelligence when it comes to these things, because again, when it comes to this deep thinking, a lot of times it's not going to see the big picture, so we need the students to have some say and not just turn this over to technology when it comes to helping students pick career pathways. So we want students to don't look for your dream to come true, look to become true to your dreams. And so that's really what my company does, Dream to Career. We're all about creating synergies between workforce and education. And we understand the complexity of the problem, coming from education, but we absolutely need the workforce involved in this. And I'm sure that a lot of you are doing projects within your communities, with the workforce. And we want to encourage those things and make opportunities for schools to work together. If somebody has a connection in the farming industry, why can't we just go ahead and bring that over to, another school that may not have that opportunity, and start to look for ways to work together. And again, the work that we're doing with regards to the horizontal industry framework can help us do that. So for those of you who work in education, we'd love to get some real samples. So if you can, in the chat, also include some examples from your lesson plan. So here's a sample lesson plan that we're going to get into, but you might ask your students to come together as a group, ask a student to identify where plants come from and what the plants need to grow. And tell students that today they'll be learning about how seeds grow and develop into plants with the help of soil and water. So this is an example of a lesson plan. I actually got it off of education.com. But if you have some examples of a lesson plan, if you want to write a couple ideas in there, we can use them, a little bit later on when we get back to, going over what the horizontal industry framework is. So without further ado, I'd like to give you the opportunity to see the horizontal industry framework. And this is actually created and it expands STEM. Okay, so a lot of people are familiar with STEM. STEM was a great opportunity. It was developed by the NSF to get individuals to business and workforce and education all working together to get them talking and giving students access to science, technology, engineering, and math. And, so recently they started to add STEAM in there because they felt that the arts were in there. Everybody's trying to throw everything into STEM. But the reality is that's not what makes someone a global citizen. It doesn't encompass all of the careers. It's a great start and it's a great model. And it's really where the horizontal industry framework came from. We wanted to expand out STEM to the other areas of the other job opportunities that are available, the other things that you need to be a professional. And so, for example, Mavens, businesses always argue that students don't know how to communicate. And so, we have to take that into consideration. That has to be something that is considered. That's not really a STEM related career, but it's something that people need to be able to do. And there's also a lot of career pathways that occur in the Maven area. And so you'll see that these are actually color coordinated. We are actually developing things out so that we can start to organize the information. And, so the other area that often gets overlooked is, sustainability. The fact that we need to do things to care about others, things that you might learn in a religious class, learning to care about the environment, learning to care about other people. And a lot of times this is overlooked, but there are a lot of career pathways in these caring fields. And the protection and security is something that every business needs right now. And so it shouldn't necessarily be even if you're talking about updates in technology, we need people who are looking at privacy and security too. So this is really how the horizontal industry framework works. Each of the clusters has a description. This information is available, on our EduAdvisor site. You can log on and see the information. There's also a short video for each of these. But mavens, as I mentioned, are the adventurous people persons. And so if we start to look for opportunities to let students explore who they are in the classroom, they can start to identify with which ones of these criteria they have and which ones they need to develop. And so the idea is to let them to start to identify that and to start to find other individuals who are like themselves, and what are the career opportunities that are available. So they don't have to look at the 1,000 jobs. There's over 1,000 jobs according to the Department of Labor. They can just look at the ones that are specific to the, if they're interested in the Maven careers. And the way that we developed this, I don't think I mentioned it on the earlier slide, is that the 16 clusters that have been identified by the Department of Education, all we did is button those clusters up into 6 mega clusters. So, you'll see some, as you're seeing careers in these clusters are, again, the 16 clusters that you may be already using that are part of most of the platforms that you've developed. But 16 is still too many for a student to really identify with who they are and, to talk about in general terms. And so that's what we want to use this horizontal industry framework as a way that we can create the opportunity to sing out of the same songbook. Individuals can, connect, and you can actually set up your classroom so that, students have, the mavens will have the opportunity to work with some of the specialists and so forth, the different clusters, and learn a little bit about each other, learn about the strengths and the weaknesses, and help to make a stronger team this way. So that's the mavens. The specialists are the problem solvers. These are where most of the careers are, in the trades and manufacturing, but I think of these a lot of times as entry level, and not everybody wants to do the same thing all day long. I am definitely not a specialist. I was never a specialist. Consequently, my husband is a specialist. He loves to do things in order and do things from one end to the other. And that's really how his mind works, but it's very different than somebody who is a maven. I consider myself more of a maven, more outgoing, wanting to be around other people, and specialists are more about, going through and fixing things. They can see how things work. They're very hands-on type individuals, but they're usually not very good at communicating. And so again, if you can get a maven and a specialist working together, a lot of times that's a good combination. And so, you can certainly build groups, like I said, that start to look at these things. The next one is visionary. And so visionaries are really are the STEM, okay? Science, technology, engineering, and math. But you'll see that also, and this happens naturally, is that people who work with robotics and artificial intelligence and these emerging industries often end up in the STEM category anyway, right? And so all we've done is added innovation and entrepreneurship to the visionary category. So visionary is STEM, but it just adds innovation and entrepreneurship in there. So it should be very familiar to most people. And these are the individuals, these are the deep thinkers. They're also the individuals. This is as close as you can probably get to self-actualization. Somebody who's really involved in solving a specific problem means that they understand themselves, they understand the people around them, and they also understand the environment. And so this is a very strong category, but it's not one that is typical of the younger students. They may have an interest in science and technology, but they may be interested in a lot of different things, and that's a good thing too. Okay, and the next one is naturalists. Naturalists, again, are the people who are interested in learning about the environment, they're interested in helping others. These are individuals who are taking care of the world around them. And, you know, they're the most balanced and you know, the most at peace. And so those are, you know, the empaths, the individuals who are able to understand others and, you know, to work well in groups. And so these are obviously in the healthcare fields, you know, for the most part, as well as agriculture and the human services. Okay, protectors are really the gatekeepers of information. And I like to think of these individuals as the ones, they could be protecting information, they could be protecting people, they can be protecting, you know, making sure that everyone's following the rules. And so those individuals are the protectors, and they work in, you know, the corrections, privacy and security, again, is critically important to businesses. So businesses should start looking for individuals who have the interest in becoming this and send them to the coding camps that have to do with obviously protecting their information. And so, you know, instead of hiring out, a lot of times try to build from within. And so we're working on some of those things as well. And the last one is the processors. Okay, these are individuals who work in the business fields as well as education. And if you think about that, they're really the ones that are making sure all of the information is disseminated and organized, and people are able to find what they need. And it keeps the businesses running. It keeps the industries running, no matter what it is, if it's in education or if it's in the workforce. And so those are basically the 6 clusters. And so what we're really trying to do is to use these clusters to, like I said, help to expand STEM and to allow individuals to start to work their policy, their purpose, and their curriculum around this. I like to think of it as, you know, how Elon Musk created the, you know, his Tesla, right? But in addition to creating the Tesla, he also had to figure out a way to power that across the country. And so that's what I see the horizontal industry framework as, a way that we can help to get everybody singing out of the same songbook, get everyone speaking the same language, just like happened with STEM, but for all of these other industries. And if you think about it, it's a way that we can fund programs that wouldn't necessarily be funded. You know, for example, the Mavens, something in the arts or dance, you can get, you know, somebody who works in a sales industry, you know, retail, hospitality, to fund something and fund it under a Maven category, and use some of the money to fund some of these programs that are typically not funded. But it's a way to bring industry in to the learning environment, very similar to what happened for STEM. And so that's really the benefit, is if we start to think about ways that we can develop policy, purpose, and curriculum using the horizontal industry framework. It's going to work in a lot of the same ways that STEM did, and it's going to have a lot of the same benefits as that. It also creates a sense of belonging. You know, a lot of these students are very lost and they don't know anything but, you know, going on and playing video games. But imagine if they found a group of individuals that are another group of Mavens or another group of Naturalists or another group of protectors that they can talk to. And if we had industry experts, just like they have in STEM, working with these individuals, we can now create a common language and an opportunity for mentorship and, you know, to find individuals who can help to bring to bring the student along, to bring them and show them pathways that have worked for the more senior individual. And so we want to create those opportunities. And the horizontal industry framework, again, because it encompasses all of the 16 clusters, but it simplifies it, makes this opportunity, better for the students. And it can create, you know, a place where they actually enjoy what they're learning in the classroom, because now they can associate what they're actually doing with the job opportunities that exist in the future. And it's not a huge lift because, like I said, we're not asking for teachers to rewrite their curriculum. We just want them to use these simple color codes to start to identify what they're teaching the kids in the classroom, what the kids are using, and let them help to connect with the learning on-ramps. So in addition, I mentioned, if you go to dream2career.org/connect, and just go to our Dream to Career website, and there's a link for connect. If you let me know, I will send you a link to, we actually created with ONET, right? Everybody knows ONET. We use their data to button this up into the 6 career clusters. So for each of the 16, as I mentioned, it pulls them over, but then it goes one step further and it pulls in the Department of Labor's data and the just over 1,000 jobs that are identified by the Department of Labor. And it pulls the information. So if you start with a career, you can see what mega cluster it is, you know, or conversely, if I'm a maven, what are my options? You know, or if I'm a specialist, what are my options? And it can help a student start to figure out those opportunities, because I don't know if you've ever used ONET, but it's a great system, but there's so much information in there. It's just the kids don't even know where to begin and they just get overwhelmed. But these 6 clusters can help them, you know, start to use that information much more efficiently. And again, it's built based on the same logic. So it should make it really easy for you guys to use that. So let's go ahead and look at this based on a lesson plan. Dana says she works with ONET all the time. Yeah, it is you know, something that is used, and you know, there's so much good data in there. And but what I found is that a lot of students, they're not going to go in there unless you're telling them to go in there. So we want them to, you know, take the opportunity to go in there, you know, more often. And so, so was anybody able to put, I just was curious if you were able to put any of your activities, anybody who's an educator, if you want to type in, if you have like a lesson plan, you know, so like maybe some of the activities you might do in a lesson, you know, so let me just go back and share this screen again, just because it's easier for me to see. Okay, so ask a student to come together as a group. This is the one that I used as the example a little bit earlier. Ask the students to identify where plants come from. And so does anybody think what ask students to come together as a group might be, which of the 6 clusters do you think asking the students to come together as a group might fit into? Anybody want to unmute? Nobody ever wants to do that, right? Well, this would be asking the students to come together as a group would be a maven, right? You know, it would make sense for individuals to, you know, to come together as a group. Obviously, that's a maven activity. And then asking the students to identify plants, where plants come from and where they need to grow. Does anybody have any thoughts? Do you remember the colors? You got it. So well, yeah, definitely the plants is the naturalist category. And I was thinking it was sharing information if they're doing the identification, but I can absolutely see where the naturalists come from, Emmett. How about tell students that today they'll be learning about how seeds grow and to develop into plants with the help of the soil, water, sunshine, and carbon dioxides. So this is the name, the sciences, right? So that's why it's obviously purple for the visionary. And then explain how planting seeds helps the environment. Anybody have any ideas? So I count that as a naturalist. But again, this is something where we want the students to start to identify these activities so that they know, for example, let's say that they're in a science class, but they have to do a presentation as part of the science class. Well, that obviously the science teacher would code that as a blue activity because it's a Maven activity. And so what the student will learn over time is that I really like the Maven activities. Or if they have to do something with, they're doing a writing sample, but it has to do with, learning something that's in the sciences, but it's a writing activity, they can actually, code that activity as, a visionary activity because it's going to be one of the STEM. But the idea is to start to identify the activities, not the course that you teach, but the activity, which of the clusters it identifies with, so that the student can see over time which category, which activities that they like the most, so they start to identify with not just I love this teacher, but these are the kinds of things that I like to do in the classroom. These are the kinds of things I want to do every day, or when you have to be, doing the same kinds of activities all of the time, they love to do that rote activities. Well, then obviously they might be a specialist, and so that's the idea. Right. Somebody's saying orange protector, blue is Maven. Yeah. And so I should pull up the link where you can see the clusters again, and the colors, and so the idea is that you would start to code your curriculum using this color pattern. And the nice thing is, if you do anything already that has to do with again, the 16 clusters, you're already there, because again, you just need to pull this up into, one layer up. It's not going to take you long to do that, but the idea is to start to identify this, because then the student they don't have to take a test. The worst thing is that we give these students, the Myers-Briggs or, one of the other assessments, and it's a snapshot in time. But unfortunately, that's not how we pick careers. This is an ongoing process that we want students thinking about. We want them thinking about it often. And when you only have that opportunity to kind of show them, one way, or if you get them going down one pathway, they don't really have a chance to really discover themselves. And so we should allow them to play with this and, again, have the opportunity to see it in different ways. And so here is, that's actually the answer to that one. And so again, if we start to think about it in terms of, this is a self-identity support, Maggie McAllister wrote this statement. The colors again are associated with each of the clusters that I was thinking that they identify best with, but that's the problem. Without any context, it makes it very difficult for individuals to even figure out what something is. So if we start to think that in the future, businesses might send somebody for training, and they'll say, you can take anything that's in the Maven category. We want you to be a better communicator. Somebody is working in the visionary category as a STEM field, and they're an engineer, and they don't know how to express themselves, so they can take anything in the Maven category. But the idea is that people will start to identify with groups, and we want everyone to have a little bit of everything. You obviously will have, most people will have one very dominant mega cluster, but the most, again, self-actualized person is somebody who's going to understand all of the other clusters. It's going to give us the opportunity to really understand who we are and how we relate to others. And so, like I said, this is really how the horizontal industry framework was developed. We actually work with educators, businesses. I was involved in a project out at Stanford. It was called Shaping the Future of Work. We worked on some of this work, as well as with Bloomberg. So the idea is everybody's trying to solve this work-learn problem, but it's really complicated. But the other thing to remember is it's only a temperature check. So the idea is not to, build your entire curriculum around the clusters, but to use them as the opportunity to get people to kind of see who they are. What kinds of things do they like to do? Who are they? What are they learning? What do they want to do every day? And the clusters do tell a new story about the data. this, as we start to do research on this, it's going to give us more information than we had before. And so it's really important for us to start to use a common language, just like we use for STEM, but for all of the other clusters. It obviously helps with compliance with the ESSA. One of the greatest things that you can do is go to your parent-teacher associations, go to your workforce groups that are associated. A lot of times we're going to them for fundraisers, but start to think of ways that you can include them in your career readiness opportunities. And if you can get the parents to start to identify with who they are, they'll start talking to the kids about this. And so that's a great opportunity too. Also for reporting, again, 16 clusters is too many, but if you can button your information up into these 6, it's going to tell you a lot more than you knew about your data. Plus, you can follow the students' achievements, in different areas. There's different ways that you can give awards. We're actually starting to work on ways that businesses can identify, just like they do with STEM, different types of student achievement. Students are achieving things in different categories, based on even what they're doing, maybe in a wood shop or something like that. They might be doing something, sign-on days and things like that to start to, recognize students based on, their achievements. And here's another part of this that we are just really starting to develop. But Michael Urich, he's actually a good friend of mine. He actually used to work for Disney. He is creating some artwork for us, and we want to develop a mascot for each of these. So, we're looking at Ollie the octopus, for the visionaries. And so, keep in touch with us as come the fall, we will have some more activities that you can do with students, but, to even have a mascot and for opportunities for them to, start to follow their career and, identify with these characters as we start to identify who they are. But we're also looking for feedback, so if you have a group of students, that you want to help us pilot some of these things with, we're absolutely happy to work to collaborate on developing this solution out so that we can provide more resources for teachers and counselors to use with the students, maybe creating some stories that they are doing different types of things in the workforce, and to kind of bring these characters to life, because especially for the young students, it's a good way to kind of connect them with who they are and what they want to become. We also have a platform. It's called eduadvisor.org. If you do have any kind of learning experiences, any kinds of events or programs that you want to share with other educators, you can absolutely share them for free. If you just go to eduadvisor.org/educator, you can post the information on our platform. So the link is there. Okay, so that brings me to the end. There's actually my email address. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments.
So thank you everyone for attending this talk, and thank you so much, Katie, for your time. We are, as a SF Bay Area school counselors and education professionals, holds these talks to inform you on the latest news in our field and to keep everyone furthering their learning. So thank you everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.